Iceland, a land forged in fire and ice, a remote sentinel in the vast North Atlantic. For centuries its people lived in a world apart, their shores guarded by fierce winds and churning seas. They believed themselves to be at the very edge of the world, almost beyond its reach. Far from the conflicts, the intrigues, the dangers that plagued mainland Europe, their isolation was their shield, or so they thought. This was a place of stark beauty, of ancient sagas whispered in the long winter nights. But the peace, so deeply ingrained, was about to be brutally, irrevocably broken. The year was 1627, a date that would be seared into Iceland's memory. Life here was a testament to resilience. Small communities clung to the coastline, wresting a living from the unforgiving land and the bountiful yet perilous sea. They were fishermen, farmers. Their days were governed by the seasons, by the tides, by the simple, enduring rhythms of survival. Their faith was a bedrock, a source of strength against the harshness of their environment. They knew hardship. They understood loss. But the terror that was coming was of a different order entirely. It was a human storm, brewed in distant lands, driven by greed and a chilling disregard for life. Their world, though challenging, was known. This new threat was an utter unknown. The Icelandic nightmare had just begun. Who were these unwelcome visitors, these bringers of terror? They were Barbary pirates, corsairs sailing from the ports of North Africa, Algiers, Sail, names that struck fear into the hearts of seafarers across the Mediterranean and the Atlantic. Their reputation was fearsome. They were raiders, slavers. Their reach was long, their cruelty legendary. For decades they had plagued the coasts of Europe, growing bolder, venturing further. But Iceland? Surely Iceland was too far, too remote, too barren to attract such predators. This was a miscalculation, a fatal underestimation of the pirates' audacity and the lure of human cargo. The news of their approach must have seemed like a dark fable coming to life. Whispers of Türkiranid, the Turkish abductions as it would come to be known, would soon fill the air. The term Turk was used loosely, a catch-all for Muslims from the Ottoman sphere of influence, these unfamiliar, terrifying figures from a world away. Initially there might have been disbelief, perhaps they were just traitors, blown off course. But the pirates' actions soon dispelled any such hopes. The pirates made landfall. The terror was no longer a distant threat. It was here. It was now. They swarmed ashore armed with muskets, scimitars, and a chilling determination. Their targets were the small, undefended coastal communities, places like Grindavik, the Westman Islands, and the East Fjords. Places where life was already a struggle, now became scenes of unimaginable horror. The pirates moved quickly, efficiently, spreading chaos and fear. The element of surprise was total. There was no army to defend the people, no fortifications to offer refuge, only shock and a desperate scramble for safety. Homes were invaded, doors kicked in, the sanctity of family life shattered, screams echoed where once there was only the sound of the wind and the sea. Families were torn apart, men, women, children, none were spared the pirates' brutal attention. They were rounded up like livestock. Those who resisted were met with violence, some were killed outright, others were beaten into submission. The human cost was immediate, devastating. Section 4. A Minister's Ordeal Through Ólafur Egilsson's Eyes. Among the captured was a man named Ólafur Egilsson. He was a Lutheran minister from the Westman Islands, a man of God, a pillar of his community. His fate and that of his wife and children became intertwined with this horrific event. Thankfully, for history, Ólafur kept a diary. His words penned in the midst of suffering offer a raw, personal window into the nightmare. They bridge the centuries, allowing us to feel the immediacy of the terror, the despair, the slender threads of hope. His account is a precious, heartbreaking testament. Ólafur wrote of the initial shock, the disbelief. The pirates came upon us so suddenly, one might imagine him writing like wolves among sheep. Our peaceful homes turned into scenes of terror. He described the chaos of the capture, the fear for his family. They bound us, young and old. Section 5. Echoes in the Fjords, Scars of Survival, Strength of Remembrance. The impact of the 1627 raids on Icelandic society was profound and long-lasting. For a small, isolated nation, the loss of several hundred people was a demographic catastrophe. But more than that, it was a deep psychological wound. The sense of security, the belief in their remoteness as a shield, was shattered. The outside world, once distant and abstract, had shown its cruelest face. Fear of a repeat attack lingered for decades, shaping coastal defenses and the collective consciousness. The Türkiranid became a defining moment of vulnerability in Icelandic history. The fate of the captives varied. Most were taken to Algiers and sold into slavery. Some endured years of hardship, toil, and despair. A few, like Ólafur Egilsson, were eventually ransomed, often through complex negotiations and the raising of funds back in Iceland and Denmark. Ólafur himself was sent to Copenhagen to help arrange the ransom for others, though tragically, he would never see his wife again, as she died in captivity before she could be freed. His story, and those of the few who returned, brought home the grim realities of what their compatriots had endured. Many, however, were lost forever, their stories ending in a foreign land. This event undeniably shaped Iceland's view of the wider world. It reinforced a sense of caution, perhaps even a wariness towards outsiders for a time. The sea, which had always been central to Icelandic life, a source of sustenance, a path for trade, now also held the memory of violation and loss. The raids highlighted the vulnerability that came with isolation, but also in time, the resilience of the Icelandic spirit. The efforts to ransom the captives, the stories that were told and retold, became part of the nation's enduring saga.